Congress is one step closer to heading off a potential government shutdown. Lawmakers have until Friday at midnight to agree to a deal. The House of Representatives passed a continuing resolution Thursday evening. It would keep the government running through mid-February. But first it has to get through the Senate, where a handful of Republicans are threatening to derail it. CBS congressional correspondent Kris Van Cleave has the latest from Capitol Hill.
Tonight, a handful of Republican senators are threatening to shut down the government in opposition to President Biden's mandate requiring most workers to be vaccinated. Courts have already put the vaccine mandates on hold, but Senator Roger Marshall of Kansas says that's not enough.
I think shutting down the government is worth the risk to save those jobs in Kansas.
They want to vote on a proposal blocking the COVID vaccine mandates, or they'll slow roll the temporary funding measure the House passed this evening. It would keep the government open through February 18th and provide an additional $7 billion for Afghan evacuees. Many Senate Republicans don't see any political advantage to this looming shutdown.
And I don't see this hostage as one that we should take.
Yeah, I'm certainly against the mandate, but I'm not so sure that's the right way to go.
President Biden said the government will stay open.
There's a plan in place unless somebody decides to be totally erratic, and I don't think that will happen.
But the standoff could force a brief shutdown, temporarily halting pay to hundreds of thousands of government workers and funding to agencies battling the coronavirus, just as a new variant is rattling nerves. What kind of a message does it send to the American people that even keeping the government open is a struggle?
We will get it done, and we will get it done in a timely fashion. We're not going to go for their anti-vaxxing, okay? So if you think that's how we're going to keep government open, forget that. Forget that.
This will ultimately be more of a political stunt than anything else because the government will get funded. There are the votes in the Senate to do it. The question is just how quickly can that happen? If the Senate can find a path forward to quickly move on this, they could avoid a shutdown. Otherwise, there are days of procedural matters that have to be done in order to get to a vote. That would result in a brief shutdown. We do know the Senate is planning to work late tonight. Lana?
Kris, thank you. For more, I want to bring in Anthony Adragna. Anthony is a reporter for Politico covering Congress. He also authors Politico's Congress Minutes. Anthony, thanks for being here. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell was adamant Thursday that Republicans would not block the continuing resolution. Is he working with his colleagues who are threatening to derail the measure?
Well, honestly, things have taken quite a turn in the last couple of hours. It's looking quite likely that we may see a Senate vote as soon as this evening. Perhaps within the hour or so. So things have really, the temperature seems to have cooled off quite a bit on the Senate side. The conservative lawmakers you were referring to have been asking for an amendment vote with 50 votes as the threshold on the vaccine mandate to try to defund that from this measure. It looks like they're going to get that vote. What it appears to be now is that 3 Senate Republicans are absent. And so that amendment is not likely to be carried. And we may have a passage to get out of town as soon as this evening.
Well, Anthony, this funding measure would only keep the government open until mid-February. What's preventing lawmakers from really coming to a more substantial agreement rather than these constant stopgap measures?
A great question. And the answer is basically both sides have not dug in yet to begin substantive negotiations. Democrats say that Republicans have sort of been dug in here, have been insistent on certain policy riders being included as part of these broader bills. But the reality is just that these talks haven't begun. And so we've been forced to see these constant continuing resolutions because both sides have been distracted by various other priorities. Democrats have been obviously focused on their broader social spending bill. And I think that's consumed a lot of the oxygen. And Republicans really haven't come to the table yet in terms of offering offers on how to get the government funded for the full year. So that's put us in this position again for having to pursue a second continuing resolution to keep the lights on.
Well, and Congress is also running out of time to act on the debt ceiling. Failure to raise it by December 15th could put the country into default. But there is word on the Hill that congressional leaders may use the National Defense Authorization Act to address the debt limit. What can you tell us about this, Anthony?
Yeah, my colleagues and I were first to report that today, that the NDAA, as it's known affectionately here in Washington, is a potential source of dealing with the debt limit. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, within the last hour or so, has said basically he didn't think the votes would be there. What's been interesting is that leaders Schumer and McConnell over in the Senate have been quietly discussing a path forward on the debt ceiling for a number of days. they've been pretty coy about their intentions, what that path might be. So we'll have to see if there's some plan here. But it looks like Leader McCarthy is throwing cold water on this idea of using the National Defense Bill as the vehicle for addressing the debt limit. It does have to be done, according to Treasury, by December 15th. So time is, of the urgency here.
Well, Anthony, more than 20 House Democrats sent a letter to Speaker Pelosi and Majority Leader Steny Hoyer on Thursday. Lawmakers are urging them to pass legislation to address supply chain disruptions. Tell us about the significance and how House leaders are responding.
It's been very interesting. Certainly, this is a push from about 24 House Democrats, many of whom are frontliners, those that are considered to be in seats that may be vulnerable in the midterm elections. And basically, they're seeing political costs here. This is something that people are feeling every day in terms of these supply chain disruptions. So they want leadership to do more, take up legislation that's been introduced that they think would benefit the supply chain. What was interesting is Speaker Pelosi today indicated at her press conference that the chairs of the various committees that have been working on this bill that's aimed at boosting competitiveness of the U.S. against China, they convene a meeting today. There's hope of working out an agreement with that bill and passing that before the end of the year. They believe that, in addition to the bipartisan infrastructure bill that they've already passed, would help alleviate some of those supply chain concerns.
All right, Anthony Adragna, thank you.
Thank you.